You are listening to 600 Saga. Today's feature is Beyond the Boundaries by T.Q. Ice. Cold, dead ice. That was what he saw and felt as he slowly opened his eyes and regained consciousness. Aurora hung suspended in midair, looking into bottomless eyes of the Vente commander. He knew his life would end in a matter of moments. "Do you understand why you will die, human?" asked the Vente. Its icy hands encircled his body, pressing further into skin, piercing through layers, sending chills through his blood. Aurora continued to maintain eye contact with the Vente, hoping it would show compassion and kill him quickly. Aurora managed to cry out. If he couldn't speak, then how could he reason with the creature? Tears sprang from his eyes, but they would travel no further than his sockets before they were frozen stiff. "Weak," the Vente exclaimed. "This one is supposed to be a defender of the boundaries, but he does not defend himself." The Vente raised Aurora higher in the air and turned toward the army behind him. "This is what we will destroy. They are weak, these humans, without their magic. They cannot withstand the elements. This one cries when he feels the majesty of the frost. They are pathetic," exclaimed their commander. Aurora looked out at the army with amazement and fear. Assembled before him was an army of no less than 10,000 Vente. They wore insignias of war and expressions of destruction. No doubt they would destroy the boundary lands and annihilate his people. Aurora was on patrol at the southern demarcations when he first caught a glimpse of a Vente. Being as the Vente only inhabited the northern frostlands, and the creature had practically become a myth within the boundaries, Aurora had followed the creature to confirm what he saw. After surveilling the creature a day's travel outside of the boundaries, he first caught glimpse of their army. Immediately he dispatched his steed Agath to return to the inner circle to warn the stone governors of the location and the strength of the assembly. He emphasized their numbers were unpredictable. The inner circle had to prepare for the worst. Looking out at the army before him, Aurora knew their numbers were worse than anything anyone within the boundaries could anticipate. He began to shake himself wildly, uttering whatever sound he could make. "Ugh!" was all he could muster, as he was slowly running out of breath. "Silence!" exclaimed the commander as he pressed further into Aurora's flesh. He continued struggling belligerently, thrashing about in the air, screaming as loud as he could, using all the strength he could summon. He needed to be released from this death grip. To ease the pressure constricting his lungs, he had to stay alive long enough to distract the creatures and give Agath enough time to reach the inner circle with his warnings. By all of the keystones within the boundaries, he fervently hoped that they would be prepared to battle an army of 10,000 Vente. This army certainly meant annihilation for the loser, and complete dominance of the lands within and without the boundaries for the victor. As Aurora continued his frenzied thrashing, the Vente commander grew increasingly irritated. Oof! Unexpectedly, he was released from the grip of his captor. He closed his eyes for the briefest of moments. He could feel their icy gazes on him. It was eerily quiet as they waited for him to compose himself. This must be what the first step on the path to death felt like. He pulled himself up slowly, using his sword as a crutch. Aurora smiled wryly as he inspected his wagon. The magic had been disabled, of course. They most certainly knew he was a defender of the inner circle if they handled his sword. He faced the Vente commander, held his right hand in the air, outstretched, signaling. "Peace!" Aurora shouted. He hoped the entire army could hear him. "I mean you no harm." "Why, then, were you spying on our camps, defender?" asked the commander. "I merely wanted to get closer to ask for assistance. My steed expired of hunger. We have been on the borders living in exile for quite some time." "You lie, defender. You are a spy from within the boundaries. No human has ever existed in peace with Ventes. Yet here you stand, asking for leniency, pretending we are not mortal enemies." "It is truth I speak," Aurora pressed on, hoping they would believe him. "He lies, comrades. He is not living in exile. His garments are well kept, his figure well fed, and his weapons supplied with magic to kill hundreds of us." "I assure you." Aurora trailed off as he watched a path being cleared in the middle of the Vente army. The entire army, including the commander, looked ahead to see the cause of this sensation. Aurora gasped in terror as the object of everyone's attention finally came into his view. There, in the middle of the army, walking steadily towards him, was Agath, being led by a soldier within the ranks. Aurora did not dare look at the commander. He knew unequivocally what he would see in the stare. Ice. Cold. Dead. Ice. Everyone within the boundaries was most certainly doomed. This was Beyond the Boundaries by TQ. TQ is a short story author and aspiring novelist. She is also a graduate of York's Glendon College Political Science program. Beyond the Boundaries is her first foray into the fantasy genre, which has expanded her range of writing. When TQ is not writing, she is actively enjoying the cultural cuisines within Toronto. Music is provided by Mads. Learn more about 600 Second Saga, our authors, how to submit your flash fiction, and how to support the podcast in the show notes. This has been Mariah Avix and 600 Second Saga.